Jai Hind. It gives me immense pleasure and my gratitude to observe now. And thank you, Tanya, for inviting me here. It's actually very satisfying to see such events being organized by young people because that is the future of the nation. Why do I say that? Because ideating sessions of this kind bring us all together for ideating sessions. We all learn a lot. Whatever be our age and experience, we continue to learn. Extremely important to see here the great minds which are in the hall, and I was telling somebody that if we put the kind of experience, knowledge that is under this roof, I don't think we'll find it anywhere else. Specifically talking about the PSUs, historically since independence, PSUs have been driving us ahead, keeping us afloat with different thought processes which the government had. But now is the time when PSUs have to compete with very good minds, brains who are committed in the private sector and also globally. In my keynote address, I want to emphasize on just a couple of issues. The first one being the convergence of whatever is the national vision which has been outlined by our Honorable Prime Minister. He's given us a particular timeline that by 2047, the nation has to be developed and also secured. Very aptly put, Viksit Desh, Surakshit Desh. If we just grow, but we don't protect what grows with us, then we have only ourselves to blame because we'll land up back into the same old story of enslavement. So that is the reason that PSUs, which are also looking at growth, and there are many PSUs who are looking at security. So this is a fine combination of how the nation should be growing. Now, people in this room are all aware of what the Honorable Prime Minister or the Apex leadership has outlined as a vision till 2047. Whether it's going to be a 20 trillion economy or more than that, also depends on how our adversaries are going to grow. We have competition, we have at times conflict, we have cooperation, we have collaboration on the international arena, but also remember what our situation was. Many years back, we could not even ensure our food security. We used to be counted in those fragile 5. Today, you are in the top 5. So that is the kind of transformation which has happened, and more needs to happen and more needs to be done faster. How do the PSUs come into this? Every individual, every entity in this country has to contribute so that we grow faster. The direction has been shown by the government. The commitment has been displayed by the government. It is for us to accelerate the momentum. Now, when I said every individual, here in this hall we have the leadership, the top leadership. But when you go back, you have to interact with the person who's at the bottom of the working chain. The shared vision has to propel the activity in a manner that everything is synergized. And if we are able to reduce our wastages, if we are able to optimize our performance, we are able to monetize the assets, I think the nation will grow faster. Digital connectivity, new technologies, these are the empowering elements that we have already come to. We take a lot of pride in saying that we are doing things better than what is happening in many of the Western world. But there are many challenges which need to be overcome. If we say that we want to become, say, a 5 trillion economy in the next couple of years, we are talking about defense sector reaching a 5 billion export mark. We started very poorly, but in the last 3 to 4 years, we have really speeded up. We had set a target of about 36,000 crores worth of exports, starting from just 686 crores or so. We've reached already 20,000 crores worth of defense exports, which is a good margin to look at. But simultaneously, the world does not stop. The world also keeps growing, things keep changing. the, the value of Indian rupee and the equation with the dollar changes. So your targets obviously will shift. But then your efforts have to match up with that because these are geopolitical realities. Look around the world what is happening. The geopolitical and the geoeconomic order is not something which will allow us to grow peacefully. There are challenges, there are nations which do not want us to succeed. So they will keep increasing the obstacles and they will very silently look at cooperation also. So it's a cruel world. In this cruel world, we all have to work together, and PSUs divided into the strategic and the non-strategic sector have a major role to play. We cannot ape the American model or the Chinese model or the Russian model. We have our own Indian model where we have to be balanced strategically. Maybe in 1947 or 1962, there was a particular PSU or a DPSU which was strategic. Maybe today it is not. There is something which will have to be used as a parameter to keep defining as to what is a strategic sector and what is not a strategic sector. These shifting goalposts are based on realities. If geopolitical and geoeconomic realities have to be mapped continuously, that understanding has to be from the worker on the machine right up to the CGM or the Director General of a particular organization. What can we do? If Indians have been able to achieve milestones in compressed time and then the nationalism grows because of that, I think PSUs also have a role to play to show success and have the nationalism being generated in the society. Every individual in the country would want to be a part of the winning team. I think that is the dream that we have to sell, that if you perform well, you can be a part of the winning cricket team, the winning Olympic medalist, the winning education sector, which has many of the Indian students or Indian engineers at the top management levels all over the world. So let us all commit ourselves to this wonderful ideating session put together by Tanya and her team, and let us look at what is the outcome from here which will lead to better delivery. Everywhere in the world, we have to look at few essential parameters, and I want to describe that by giving an example of what people in the defense sector look at. We have a large number of DPSUs in the defense sector also. At this moment when we are sitting here, there is a soldier, sailor, there is an airman, they are all deployed for security of the nation. They perform well only on one factor, that is the trust. Trust in the DPSUs, the trust in the PSUs. The person who's there protecting us wants the best quality. It is the nation's responsibility to give niche technology to the protectors or the growers of the nation. We must give them niche technology that is quality. We don't want accidents. The reality is even today there are accidents. Every time there is an accident, you create orphans, you create widows, which is not the good sign of any production sector. I remember I was in Vienna talking about how our aviation sector was very good, and while I finished my talk, we got to know that one of the helicopters crashed. I think whatever I had done to impress the people there, it all went down the drain. So the issue is, as an individual, even if I am in an assembly line where I am only putting a screw in place, my responsibility is to ensure that the quality has to be which does not create an accident and which does not create an incident. Now this part of the incident I'll give out more elaborately. When the world is observing us and they look at what kind of work culture we have, what kind of protests we have, what kind of internal disturbances we have, whether in the factory or whether outside, the investment climate varies as per that. And we are quite hungry for foreign direct investment here. Recently, you would have seen how the government has liberalized certain sectors in the investment from the foreign elements. So the incident and accident-free environment is most important. Our costs have to be competitive. We are not the only people in this struggle. There are people who are exporting products which are of NATO standards. We better achieve that. The assurance that only the Indian armed forces will be our customers is not correct. Unless we export, unless we earn foreign exchange, our journey towards 2047 will be sluggish. The other issue is the accountability and traceability of the people who are on the assembly line. That work culture also has to be ensured. So the accountability factor has to be there. Cost competitive, I've already explained why it is important, because everyone's revenue is important. Even in the armed forces, if you give us something which is costlier than what is in the private sector, why would I ever look at a PSU? That's not the protectionism that we would want. We would want the best, we would want affordable. When we talk of new wars, people say, while new wars are on high technology, any country which manufactures cheap elements for fighting wars will always win. You look at the recent Israel-Hamas war, Israel claiming to be the biggest technology giant, got absolutely upset because of low-cost options which were generated by Hamas. So that is something which we all have to learn. Our national resilience to be able to withstand the long duration conflicts, and these conflicts are not only in the kinetic field or in the conventional field. You have economic wars, you have environmental wars, you have intellectual wars, everything is going to continue. So when people say that, this is an era of short wars, actually when the Prime Minister says this is an era of no wars, it amply clarifies that become strong and your strength lies in the deterrence to avoid wars. People feel that armed forces are to fight wars. I would say, let's think armed forces are there to deter wars so that your growth trajectory continues. And that is the kind of ambition that we must have. After selling something to friendly foreign countries, if the performance there is not up to the mark, then we don't have assured markets. So that is again something which PSUs have to focus on. And if we are able to match ourselves with what is the economic policy and the economic vision of the nation, in which manufacturing is one of the key pillars. I think manufacturing has to be now driven, and only focusing on agrarian economy is a thing of the past. We will have to look more at technology-driven agrarian economy as well. So growth and security, these are the two pillars which I want to emphasize on. And in the end, a very big thank you to everyone here for having come here and being a part of this discussion, which will be remembered for times to come, because these are small steps in a long journey. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.